I work at Kroger. I've been working there for almost a year now. It's been a great job for me to work part-time and have flexible hours. I work mainly as a cashier, which causes me to interact with and see many different people who stop there to shop. The most frequent hours that I work are afternoons to close on weekdays, and after working there for a month or so, I was able to learn what days were the busiest and what times had the most customers. One night, I was working until close, which by the way is 10 p.m., and it was approaching closing time. There was virtually nobody left in the store for the last 30 minutes or so because of it being a weeknight. Of course, it's a sort of big store, and I couldn't see everyone who was inside, but I'm sure there weren't many. I remember that a guy emerged from one of the aisles and started walking toward the check lanes. At the time, my check lane was the only one open because we closed in just a few minutes. The guy was average height, had light brown hair, and nothing about him really stood out to me at all. I thought he was coming to check out when I saw him walking towards me. But when he got up to the conveyor belt, I noticed that he didn't have anything in his hands. I asked the man if I could help him, but he just stood there staring at me. The way he stared at me was not as though he was confused, but he was expressionless. He didn't even react when I spoke to him. I once again asked the man if he needed any help and sort of waved at him in case maybe he didn't hear very well. The man just kept standing there though and looking at me. After about 10 more seconds of extreme awkwardness, the man finally walked away and left the store. The next time I worked was 2 nights later. It was the same closing shift that I usually had, and was another weeknight. It was a little bit busier on this night, right up until we closed. When it was 9:58 p.m., I was at my register, and once again saw the man walking towards me from an aisle. He also had no items in his hand. I tried talking to him again, but had no success at it. After staring at me for a while, the man just walked away again. We closed right after that, and I was able to get out of work about 10 minutes later. After work, I was driving home, and I realized that I had to get gas. My car was almost out, so I pulled into the gas station right by my house, only a few minutes away. After filling up, I went inside to get something to drink. I was in the very back aisle of the gas station where the drinks were for a minute or so, and when I turned to leave, I suddenly saw the guy who I had seen at work. He was once again staring right at me, but halfway between one of the aisles. He had the same look on his face, and it immediately gave me the creeps. I put my drink down and walked right towards the exit while going as far away from the man as I could. Once I had made it out, I literally ran to my car and then left. I drove home and luckily didn't see the guy for the rest of the night. The next day, I called my boss at Kroger and asked her if I could work other shifts other than closing shifts for a little while. They were able to work with me, and I didn't end up seeing the guy again. I still wonder, though, if he was stalking me, or if it was just a coincidence that I kept seeing him. I shop at Kroger all the time. I'm a female in my 20s, and Kroger is the main store where I buy all of my groceries. I'm there at least once a week. There's one location about 5 minutes from my apartment where I usually shop. A few months ago, I was there like usual doing some grocery shopping. I try to go around the same time every week and keep it consistent for the most part. I went inside the store and did all of my grocery shopping. I was there for quite a while, probably about an hour or so. When I checked out and then left the store, I got back to my car to find a note was placed on my windshield. At first, I was afraid that somebody had backed into me or was mad about how I had parked or something like that, but nothing appeared to be unusual, and I was parked sort of at the back side of the parking lot where there were less cars. I picked up the note and opened it. The note said, "I enjoyed watching you shop today. See you next time." I didn't know whether I should think of this as a joke or be creeped out by it, but ultimately, I felt a lot more creeped out than amused. I had no idea who would do something like that, and immediately started looking around wondering if I was being watched. There were a lot of people there, and I hadn't seen anything strange or out of the ordinary. The parking lot was packed with cars, and I figured the best thing to do was just to drive away. When I got home, I did my best to forget about the creepy note that I had gotten. I told myself it was probably just a random joke, and even though it was a terrible joke, I didn't have anything to worry about. Over the next few days, I mostly forgot all about it. But almost a week after I had last been to Kroger, I was running out of a few things and needed to go back. I went at a quieter time when the store was less busy and wasn't thinking at all about the note. After I got inside, I first went to get a few vegetables. I was in the store for no longer than 5 minutes and was just about to leave the produce section when, for whatever reason, I had the urge to look back. I I had the feeling that you get when you're being watched. I turned and looked, and saw an employee from about 50 feet away staring at me. We made eye contact, and the man gave me a creepy smile and winked his eye, then slowly waved at me. Because I was inside the store, and there were some more people around, I took a couple of steps towards the man with a puzzled look on my face. He then began to walk over to me. When he got about 10 feet away, I started to back up. He then asked if I got his note. I asked the man why he had left it, and he said just because he wanted to. He then went on to say that he knew a lot more about me than I knew. After hearing that, I left to get as far away from him as I could and went straight towards the customer service area. The man had dark hair, a grayish beard, and his name tag said Dan. I had plans to report him for his creepy behavior now that I knew who he was. When I got to customer service, though, I was told no such person worked there, and he was likely just pretending to. They told me that they would keep an eye out for him, though, if he were to return, but that didn't make me feel a whole lot better knowing the guy possibly knew where I lived. I decided not to go to that particular Kroger anymore and shop in a different area entirely. I only hope that the man didn't actually know where I lived. That was a few months ago, and luckily, I haven't seen or heard from him since, and I'm hoping it stays that way. When I was fresh out of high school, I worked a few summers at Kroger to earn money. I mostly stocked shelves and worked late at night and after hours. I'd start in the afternoon and get done by like 11 or midnight many times. I'd been working there for a while, and it was my second summer there where the most terrifying moment of working there took place. It was a Friday night, and I was working until 11 p.m. stocking shelves. At this point, it was maybe 10:30, and we had just recently closed. I had a bunch of items that I was putting onto the shelves, and when I was done, I would go into the back rooms of the store to get more. I had just finished stocking one particular area and went into the back room to get more. The back room was just like you would expect. Unfinished floors, carts, pallets, and shelves of items all over the place. In that particular area, I was the only person that would be back there working, but when I was over there and looking for the next products, I heard the noise like a can or something falling to the ground a few feet away. I asked if anybody was there, thinking another coworker was, but nobody replied to me. I realized how strange this was and went over to investigate. When I found the item that I thought had fallen, I saw it was a can of food, and from where it had been on the shelf, it should not have fallen over like that. Then, out of nowhere, I heard a noise behind me and turned around to see a tower of boxes falling down right at me. I jumped away as fast as I could, but was still hit with the majority of the boxes. Luckily, none of them were too heavy that it injured me, but it still hurt. I shouted, asking who did that and why. I didn't know any of my coworkers to be big jokesters or anything like that. We all kept it pretty professional. I then heard the sound of someone running away, but didn't see anybody. I got up and stacked the boxes back up again, which took me a few minutes. Then I walked back to what I had originally been trying to do when I went in the back room in the first place. When I was walking there, I suddenly heard another noise. Then I saw a can flying through the air towards me. It just missed me by a couple of feet, but I was now really annoyed. I looked to the direction that it had come from. That's when I saw a woman. She was sort of hiding behind another box and looked crazy. I yelled at her that she had to get out, but instead, she threw another can at me and then ran away. I ran to get back to the main part of the store, and when I did, I quickly located my boss and told him what was going on. He ended up calling the police, who arrived, went inside, and then got the woman. She was high on drugs and had somehow snuck in the back room when we were open and had been hiding back there.